I thought of people, of course, like Gandhi and Sister Teresa, who became heroes in a very different way, giving themselves as a role model to the degree that most of us would say, well, that's not even realistic. I thought of one of my personal heroes, a man that most of you probably haven't heard of, a man named Lech Wałęsa, who was the president of Poland back in the late 80s, going into the 90s. And Lech Wałęsa was president over a communist-controlled Poland. And Lech Wałęsa began to read books about Martin Luther King Jr., and he began to get inspired at the power that one man could have to turn a nation. And it so inspired him that he stood in the face of communism, and he, with his own hands, destroyed the communist regime and mindset in Poland. Because of Lech Wałęsa, knowing that he could die because of what he was doing, because of his bravery, he inspired a man named Boris Yeltsin, who also I list as a hero, who was the president of Russia. And Boris Yeltsin looked at Lech Wałęsa and said, if Lech Wałęsa can do it, I can do it. And he stood in the face of death, and he declared communism to be a dead concept in Russia. And we give Ronald Reagan much credit because he deserves much credit. But ultimately it took somebody over there with boots on the ground to make it happen. And that was Boris Yeltsin. And he was the man who was brave enough to stand up and say, this does not work. I wish Boris Yeltsin was here today to sit down with our current cabinet of political leaders and remind them socialism does not work. It looks good on paper, it sounds right to the human mind, but in the real world, everything will fall apart. I thought of guys that we've all heard about in the news the last few years, like Todd Beamer. How many knows who I'm talking about? Let's roll. Let's roll. On a plane, gathering enough information at that point via cell phones from their family to find out this plane is heading to Washington, D.C., and the most likely target's probably going to be the White House. And with those innocent lives on board, Todd Beamer and the guys that were with him, and I don't know the other guys' names, but there were others involved. They were the unsung heroes, the unnamed heroes. They decided, no, we're going to give our lives, if that's what it takes, to bring this plane down before it gets to our capital and it takes out our White House. And they did what they had to do in a moment. In a moment. And it just reminded me that until you're in those moments, maybe you really won't even know what you're capable of. What's inside of you? Heroes. Culture being defined by her heroes. As I was pondering this week, knowing that we've always recorded great stories about our heroes, and we're always writing about our heroes all through time. If you go back to the great Iliads of Homer, and you see all these great writings of Hector and Achilles and all these great heroes, you see that culture always records stories of her heroes, and culture is defined by her heroes. And I thought, I'm going to go into our modern day writings in America and see who we're writing about and see who our heroes are today in America. So I went to the MSN News homepage, not the entertainment page, not the sports page, the news page, and here were the headlines. Kardashians discuss plastic surgery. This is the news page. Miley Cyrus, and then in quotes, I'm not going to college right now. Headline, Bret Michaels to have heart surgery later this year. Headline, and maybe some of you younger ones know who these people are, I'm not sure. Jonas dumps Levito over the phone. I'm assuming that's a Jonas brother. Don't have a moon who the Levito is. But I think I heard a Spanish type song, something like that. Oh, you all are getting it, huh? Headline, Slipknot, how many knows who that band is? Slipknot bassist found dead in motel room in Des Moines. Headline, Lindsay Lohan pleads with judge. I want to plead with that judge too. Please lock her up, throw away the key, and make it illegal for anyone else to write about her ever again.
Yes.
Under these major headlines, or the sub-headlines, all the news you need to know about Dancing with the Stars, American Idol, and The Bachelorette. I knew that if I could dig far enough to page 2 or 3, or maybe page 4 or 5, I would in fact find that in Iraq or Afghanistan that same day or the day before, there were heroes that lost their life for their country. But these heroes that are out giving their life for their country, they don't make the headlines in our culture anymore. We don't sing about these heroes. Now our heroes are about the dysfunctional people like Britney Spears and Paris Hilton. I thought about that also, and I thought, this has been going downhill for a while. And I thought about how America and how we've been redefining who our national icons should be. Because I was thinking about Dwight D. Eisenhower, and please understand the big picture of what I'm saying, because who am I to cut down any past president and the weight that they've had to carry beyond what I can even comprehend today. But I was thinking about how Dwight D. Eisenhower has not become a cultural icon of America, and yet JFK did. JFK, who quite honestly, if you've ever done your history, did absolutely pretty much nothing as a president except for get us into Vietnam. His claim to fame was he was a great womanizer. And yet because he had the look that America runs after today, he became the great presidential icon, a hero to us. I thought of people like Marilyn Monroe. How she became a great American icon, even a hero, although it is my opinion she did not have the greatest voice in the world, and I'm pretty sure she never won any Academy Awards or Oscars for her acting. But she looked good. She died of a drug overdose. And she became an American hero. I thought of people like Elvis, and look, I'm with the rest of y'all. There was just nobody like Elvis. Although, I have to tell you, his voice today would not become a hit-type voice. But back then, it did. Elvis becoming one of the greatest American heroes in our history, he died of drug overdose. I was thinking of our latest Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, who no doubt carved his niche in musical history unrivaled since Elvis probably. Gotta give him props, can't take anything away from his musical ability. He's become a great American hero. He died of a drug overdose. And I was looking at how we as Americans in our culture, how we've redefined what it means to be a hero. And I suddenly became very concerned because a culture is defined by its heroes. And I turn on the news and I see the magazines at the checkout at Kroger and at Walmart. I see what we're wanting to see, and it's a little scary. I don't see true heroes grabbing the headlines anymore. I see the heroes being buried on page 6. I see we've become quite deluded in our culture on what's important and what's not. Call me weird, call me sick, call me twisted, but I could care less what's going on in Lindsay Lohan's life. I find it very, very troublesome when I am very concerned about an oil spill in the Gulf of Louisiana, and I'm monitoring this because I understand the devastating trickle-down effect this can have in multiple areas of our nation and around the world. And I'm concerned, and on the same page that I read about Paris Hilton in broad, big headlines, I'm finding a small blurb about the oil spill on the bottom of the page saying, if you want to know more about this, click on it, and it'll take you back 3 or 4 more pages, and you can read an article on this. We've become a little too Jerry Springer, not enough Dwight D. Eisenhower.